Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive into Freight Insight Weekly, brought to you by Freight Collab. We're only on our second week, but I'm already loving uncovering all of these freight and logistics trends. We take a ton of information and we just boil it all down into little insights just for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting through the noise.
And this week, we've got some serious insights. We're talking about how wild these freight rates have been. It's impacting everybody from the big, huge shipping companies to like your local furniture stores.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we'll also be talking about how all this technology is changing the industry. Think AI analytics and new partnerships that are tackling those like really annoying delivery delays.
Definitely.
Speaking of furniture stores, I was actually looking at a new couch recently. I was ready to get rid of my old lumpy college couch, and I found the perfect one online, and then bam. The shipping was like almost as much as the couch itself.
Ouch. Yeah, I feel that. That's a real world example of how global events can hit our wallets. So AP Moller-Maersk, one of the world's biggest shipping companies, said that the disruptions in the Red Sea shipping lanes are a big factor. These disruptions are caused by Houthi rebel attacks. And that forces ships to take longer routes, and those routes are more expensive, of course. And then those costs inevitably trickle down.
So it's not just about comfy couches then. It's about this whole web of global trade and how disruptions in one area can totally just send ripples throughout everything. But Maersk, they're not complaining. They're seeing a huge profit boost, actually.
Right.
They reported a 54% year-over-year increase in those freight rates.
That's right. And while those profits sound good on the surface, it really does have this cascade effect. Retailers, especially the ones who deal with bulky items like furniture, they're feeling the pressure. Take Australian furniture retailers Nick Scaley and Temple and Webster. They had to issue profit warnings, and they've had slower sales growth as those shipping costs just eat into their margins.
So it's kind of a mixed bag then. So while the shipping companies might be happy, retailers are facing this dilemma. Do they absorb the costs and risk lower profits, or do they pass the cost on and then potentially lose sales?
Exactly. It really highlights that delicate balance of the supply chain and how changes in one area can just have these huge impacts on everyone else. And it's not just retailers feeling it either. Trucking companies are watching this really closely.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. What's the outlook for trucking companies in this environment?
Well, companies like XPO and Werner Enterprises are actually pretty optimistic. They're seeing signs of a potential turnaround with those rate increases and less excess capacity in the trucking market.
So are they kind of benefiting from the overflow of those ocean freight rates then?
Potentially, yeah. As ocean freight gets more and more expensive, some of those shippers might just turn to trucking instead for those shorter routes, or for regional transport, which boosts demand and increases rates.
So we've got this situation where shipping companies are seeing their profits going up. Retailers are dealing with this profitability crunch. And trucking companies are cautiously optimistic about things getting better.
Right. And don't forget these freight rate fluctuations. They're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They impact everyone. For consumers, it could mean higher prices on everything, from groceries to electronics to, yeah, even that new couch.
It is a good reminder that we're all part of this global marketplace, and that things that happen thousands of miles away can impact all of us. But let's shift gears from all this to something a little bit more exciting. Let's talk about freight technology.
Absolutely. That's where we're seeing some of the most interesting solutions.
While those rising freight rates are definitely a challenge, the industry isn't just sitting back and accepting it. Let's talk about some of the cool tech advancements happening right now that are changing how things are moving around the world.
Yeah, the speed of innovation in freight tech is really remarkable. It's not just about bigger ships and faster trucks anymore. It's about using data and AI to optimize everything.
We've all seen those frustrating delivery pending notifications, and it seems like these companies are finally taking those delays seriously. Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd, two of the biggest names in shipping, have actually teamed up to form the Gemini Alliance.
Yeah, and it's a really powerful partnership, and it's aimed at combating delivery delays. So their strategy involves using bigger ships to increase that cargo capacity. And they also strategically plan their port calls to minimize time in port.
So it's like a choreographed dance of these massive cargo ships, all working together to move stuff quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And their goal is to reach a 90% reliability rate, which would be a huge improvement.
Yeah.
For businesses and consumers, it shows the industry is shifting towards prioritizing reliability and making customers happy.
Yeah, 90% reliability would make online shopping way less stressful. But it's not just about smarter routes and bigger ships, is it? The DIA Freight and Analytics 2024 Freight Focus Report talks about how important data and AI are for the future of freight.
For sure. AI is becoming crucial for navigating this complex world of freight and logistics. Think of it like a really powerful brain that can analyze tons of data to find the fastest, cheapest, and most efficient shipping routes.
So, for someone who doesn't understand data science, can you explain how AI is actually being used?
Imagine you're a logistics manager for a big company. You've got thousands of shipments to coordinate, multiple ways to transport everything, and routes and costs are always changing. So AI can help you predict, demand optimize your routes, match shipments with the right trucks or ships, and even automate stuff like scheduling and documentation.
So it's like having a whole team of expert logistics managers working 24/7.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And we're seeing companies like DHL Supply Chain actually doing this. They're using AI to manage their data and provide even better customer support.
AI seems like it could be a game changer,
Yeah.
especially with all the disruptions we've been seeing. Are there any other cool tech developments happening?
Oh yeah, tons. APIs, or application programming interfaces, are becoming really important. They let different systems talk to each other seamlessly, and that streamlines the whole shipping process.
So instead of having information stuck in all these different systems, APIs are like bridges that connect everything.
Exactly. And then there's distributed ledger technology, which is like the technology behind blockchain. It's being used to make freight monitoring more transparent and secure.
Okay, I've heard of blockchain, but I'm not sure I totally understand how it works with freight.
So imagine being able to track a shipment in real time, from where it starts to where it ends, and having a super secure record of every step along the way. That's what blockchain can do. It creates a record that everyone can see of the shipment's whole journey. So it's easier to check if it's authentic, track its progress, and find any potential problems.
So it's like a digital fingerprint for each shipment.
Exactly. And these advancements aren't just about making things faster and cheaper. They're also about making the supply chain more sustainable and resilient. AI can help optimize fuel consumption and reduce emissions. And blockchain can help track where goods come from and make sure they were sourced ethically.
That's really cool. It seems like these technologies could solve some of the biggest problems the industry is facing, from efficiency and cost to sustainability and transparency. But for now, let's switch gears to a region that's making big moves in the freight world, the Middle East.
The Middle East is a really interesting place for freight and logistics right now. There's a lot of dynamic stuff happening in different sectors.
So let's start with maritime shipping. Folk Maritime, a Saudi Arabian company, is launching a new service connecting Dammam with ports in India and Iraq.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
This is a strategic move for sure. It aligns with their Saudi Vision 2030, which is the country's plan to diversify the economy and become a global logistics hub.
so they want to strengthen these regional trade routes and become a major player in the global supply chain.
Exactly. And with those Red Sea shipping disruptions we were talking about before, the Middle East is looking at other ways to get around those areas. We're seeing more and more traffic going around the Cape of Good Hope. It adds time and cost to the journey, but it makes sure that those goods keep moving.
So it's all about being flexible and finding solutions to keep that global trade going. Now, what about air cargo? What's happening up in the air?
Emirates is making a big investment. They've ordered a whole fleet of new Boeing 777F freighters. They think there's going to be even more demand for air freight.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting, especially considering all the delays we've been talking about. It seems like air cargo is still in high demand.
Oh, for sure. And it's not just Emirates. IAG Cargo is also resuming its London-Jeddah route, which will boost that cargo capacity between the UK and Saudi Arabia.
More connections, more capacity, more opportunity. Sounds like the Middle East is becoming a big deal for freight. What about rail freight? Any cool new developments there?
Yeah, definitely. The UAE's Etihad Rail is expanding its network. Stage 2 connects Guaifat to Fujairah, and it's over 600 kilometers long.
Wow, that's huge. What's the overall impact of that project?
It's all about better connections. This network connects major cities in the UAE, and it links up with Saudi Arabia. It creates a much more integrated transportation system, which is huge for regional trade and infrastructure.
They're really building out a strong transportation network. But it's not just about moving goods, is it? It's also about doing it sustainably.
Right, and that's where Gulf Warehousing Company, or GWC, comes in. They've actually been recognized by Forbes Middle East for their commitment to sustainability. They're setting a really high bar for environmental and social responsibility.
That's awesome to hear. It's great to see these companies thinking about the future.
Definitely. And remember when we were talking about DHL using AI? Well, they're actually implementing that technology in the Middle East, too. It just goes to show how technology can be used to make things better.
Yeah, it's clear that the Middle East is a major player in the global freight world. We covered a lot today, from those crazy freight rates and groundbreaking tech advancements to all the exciting stuff happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, it really is fascinating to see how these trends are all connected and how they're shaping the industry.
It really is. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of freight and logistics, here's a final thought for you. With all this innovation happening, how do you think the industry will look 5 years from now? And what does that mean for you as a consumer, as a business owner, or just as a citizen of this interconnected world?
It's a great question. Things are changing so quickly, and the future of freight is full of possibilities.
Well, thanks for joining us on this journey brought to you by Freight Collab. Tune in next week for another deep dive into the world of Freight Insight Weekly.